Hello, welcome back to part 3. And we're pretty much talking about being in two different headspaces between you and your spouse. Your spouse may be in an intimate headspace and you may be in a warring headspace. It may be the vice versa. You may be in a lovey-dovey headspace and they might be in a warfare space. But you have to gauge where your partner is. Next, I don't know when this happened, but I'm gonna add this in right here. They ended up having to go to a event. Now, I believe this scene actually happened before the scene that I just described. They had to go to a Parisian charity gambling event. And I believe that's where Jackie first saw Genevieve. Chris first met her, and that's where he was first interacting with her. And this is where Jackie first met the Asian woman, and every time he ran into her, they ended up getting into a fight. There are some people in your life that they see you as a target. You know this. The second that they see you on site, they ready to spiritually get into a fight with you, okay? Because of the anointing on you, you are a target. And it was funny, I was listening to Sunray this morning. She did a word where a lot of us, we have been blessed, whether it be with a marriage, with our children, we want to become overly protective. I know this. My mother was like this. My mother, when I was growing up, she never let me go nowhere. She never let me do anything. And this was probably because of the fact that I was heavily bullied throughout my entire childhood. So she protected me by not letting me go anywhere. And then when I did go places, she had a panic attack if I left and didn't call her at the time. She told me to call her. I never understood that. I thought she was overreacting. But now that I know what I know now that I did not know then, I understand why she did that. And I sometimes have to sit with the Lord and pray about certain things in relation to my own kids. It's like, I don't want to smother my kids, but I want to protect them from the warfare. And the fact of the matter is, and Sunray was saying this morning, that you can love your kids, but the light and the anointing on them is going to draw out warfare. I don't care when you let them out. Whenever you decide to reveal them to any capacity, they are going to deal with a certain amount of warfare because God has to teach them. And the fact of the matter is, if you have one child, yeah, you may deal with a level of isolation to isolate the one child. But if you have, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you won't let them have access to other people, their siblings will do the work that needs to be done to treat them the way that they needed to be treated in order to give them the thick skin. Because somewhere they gonna get it. Either you're going to let them out and let the world teach them a few lessons, or their own siblings are going to do it. But whoever's got a hole in them is going to teach them the lesson God needs them to be taught. Now, if it's through siblings, then the siblings will teach them. We all know, look at what happened with Joseph. His siblings did not like them. I had a cousin. It wasn't a cousin, it was my niece when I was growing up. Ooh, every time she came to visit, she treated me like, it was bad. She would throw things at me, hit me with stuff and all kinds of stuff. As adults that we are now, she goes to church now, we go. But the Lord allowed her to be that way when I was a child because my parents would not allow me to have people around me that were going to allot me the ability to be taught certain lessons. So I had to learn it through the offenses of the people that the Lord that had minor access to me as children. Why am I saying all this? You and your spouse, you may be the spouse that the light on you that shines draws in the darkness, draws in competitiveness, draws in the fights, draws in all of the confusion. And your spouse may not recognize why you're getting this kind of effect. There was a scene where Chris is on the opposite side of the door thinking something else is going on while Jackie's in a fight. And this happened twice. Remember, in the previous scene, he was Chris was having himself a moment with I forget what her name was, Genevieve, and then the fight broke out between Jackie and the Korean woman, Korean, Chinese, I don't know, woman. They were in a fight. Two different experiences. Chris was assuming one thing, but Jackie knew the other. Sometimes your spouse may not be able to recognize you're in need of assistance, because your spouse may not view what you're going through as spiritual warfare, because he's looking at you or she's looking at you from the viewpoint of what his eyes or her eyes can see. But you may spiritually be in a fight for your life. You understand what I'm saying? So, fast forward, they end up leaving the hotel that night because Genevieve ended up getting shot in her arm or something like that. And she got grazed. Chris was pissed off because he didn't get to have his intimate moment with Genevieve. Some of your warfare may interrupt your intimacy. It may prevent you from having the intimate moments of which you desire to have with who it is that you are with, meaning your God-ordained spouse. It may be because you may be going through a level of warfare, and this is that element of discernment of trying to come to the understanding, Lord, I know I'm going through this, right? I have the understanding that this is the thing that I'm going through. But you know how they say when you get married, your husband is the leader. Do you continue to give them what they desire sexually, even if you're going through warfare? And vice versa. Because you might desire intimacy and they might be going through something. And should they have the right to still have sex with you? You understand what I'm saying? So does it work both ways? That's the question. I know somebody I can ask about that too. But with that being said, understanding that intimacy in your relationship. Moving forward, they ended up having to change locations. They left the hotel, the same cab driver, and who is now extremely interested. I want to be a part of anything that you need help with. Blah, 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 blah. So they end up staying at his house with his wife overnight. His wife's kind of confused because she's like, why are these people here at my house? Anyway, the next morning, Genevieve reveals that she's the thing that the people are looking for. She's the key. Now I could say a bunch of different things about it, that you and your spouse have the ability as protectors to protect the keys and so on and so forth. If that's for you, that's for you, whatever that is. But she needed to be protected at this point. Chris was acting foolish, talking about a whole bunch of foolishness, thinking that she was a dude, or all kinds of dumbness. Anyway, they end up coming to the determination that they need to take her in exchange for something. I forget what the thing was, but they had to take her back. And when they went to take her, they come to find the person that they thought was their ally was actually their nemesis. Because the person they were figuring they want to take her to was the person that was looking for her. Anyway, you have to be very discerning in the season that you're going into of the people that you associate yourself with, because there will be smiling snakes before you. Megan Michelle did a great word on that, and we've been in a season where we had just come out of a season dealing with smiling snakes. You have to be discerning of the people around you, because there are people that you're supposed to help that may have bad attitudes, but you're still supposed to help them. But there's people that are going to smile in your face, smiling snakes, that you must discern. This is a smiling snake, and if I help this person, they are going to kill me. Because they want what you have, and they want you to they want you to do pretty much do the work for them, so that they can get the glory off of it, because you did the work and brought them exactly what they wanted. This is how you need to be able to be discerning of the smiling snakes. Okay? With that being said, what else? There's also, they came to the understanding that this person was a liar, and I don't know how they got out of there, but they managed to get out of there. And Genevieve, I believe, was separated from them. I can't remember exactly how, but she was separated from them, and it came down to making the determination as to whether she was going to go in and be exchanged, because now the guy had the consulate's daughter, and she was being held hostage, and they wanted to exchange Genevieve for her. So there are going to come points in time where, when you and your partner, there's certain truths that are going to have to be revealed, because you've ever heard the saying that the omission of a piece of information is the same as telling a lie. Certain pieces of information, whether it's information you have or your spouse has, can make a situation worse or better. And in a extreme pressure situation, if both parties know all information, good or bad. I was listening to, I forget what the guy's name is. It's a guy that comes on Instagram. He does little words. This African American guy, and he talks about sometimes the ugly truth is better than a beautiful lie, because the person can handle an ugly truth in the moment, but spinning the web of a beautiful lie can be more dangerous. Okay, so when it comes down to it, you could end up digging yourself into a hole that you are going to end up having to crawl out of, or is going to end up leading back to the truth anyway, because the truth can never really be hidden but for so long. What ends up happening is everything comes to culmination at the Eiffel Tower towards the end of the film. Oh, I hear this. Sometimes you have to go to the point of your monuments and tear them down. And that actually ties back to something I said at the beginning of this word about the idols. Yeah, the idols needing to be torn down. Your idols may also be the lies or the truths in which you've become accustomed to, that were beliefs belief systems and experiences that you may have gone through, whether it was in your childhood, in your past, so on and so forth, that are actually more detrimental to you now because you're not dealing with them and are leading you into dangerous situations. It may be the same with your God ordained spouse. There may be truths in which he never dealt with or she never dealt with. And until they deal with those things, they're going to lead your marriage into the wrong direction because of the fact that those truths need to be revealed so that he or she can heal from them and that idol can be pulled down for what it is. Deep, deep, deep. So it needs to be pulled down and removed for what it is. Oh, I know what you're doing. But what else? So they end up at this location, and it's assumed they're bringing Genevieve, and they don't end up bringing Genevieve. What happens is Chris comes dressed up as Genevieve, and they end up fighting it out. Sometimes you and your spouse have to put your heads together that when the communication is determined, the truths are out, the idols are knocked down, that you and your spouse may be able to perform a bait and switch in order to not give the enemy what he wanted, but to turn the scenario in your favor. For what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn it in your good. Also, that the enemy may dig a pit for your brother, but he gonna end up falling in it himself. The brother is the guy that was his foster friend. It was his foster brother, Jackie's foster brother, and him end up to a fight to darn near the death. And what ends up happening is Jackie ends up killing him because I think he ends up kicking him off of the scaffolding of the Eiffel Tower while he goes to save the girl again, the consulate's daughter. So, they end up getting the girl back, and because him and Chris worked together, they had to take certain leaps, destroy certain things in order for things to come together the way that they were supposed to. For the benefit of the situation. And it's going to be certain things that are going to come up in your marriage and your relationship, especially if you work with your God ordained spouse, that may, even in business terms, that may threaten your personal relationship. But the beautiful lie that may look real good to everybody else publicly, y'all got to deal with the ugly truth in your personal relationships. And you need to know the ugly truth in order for you and your spouse to have a united front whenever you have to publicly go out. Or you may end up dealing with what you see happen with a lot of celebrities. When the truth comes out, it becomes a firestorm all over the media, all over the tabloids, all over the place, which could have been avoided if the two of you were in communicative alignment. You were communicating, you were making sure that all things were in right standing. And when they came into alignment and communication, they were able to take that foster brother out. Because, and this is something that I plan to talk about even more, understanding proper positioning. What's your center? What are you protecting? You have a center, which is God. And then outside of that center is your husband, your children, and so on and so forth. If you move your spouse into that center, then your entire dichotomy of harmony is going to fall apart. If you move, for instance, Jackie is using his foster brother and had put the foster brother over his relationship with Chris. If you put family members and other people over your relationship, and people do this, think about it. When you have a husband who puts their mom over their wife, or you have a wife that puts their sister or their mother or their father or somebody over that other significant other, or the closeness of their relationship with their best friend, and their best friend turn around and start becoming more interested in a spouse, and so on and so forth. When you put a person that's supposed to remain on the outskirts of your relationships in the center, they're in the wrong position. And them being in the wrong position can cause a detrimental rift between the people that are supposed to be in that segment of people. So you have to make sure that in your relationship with your spouse, you have the communication that, okay, I have God as my center. My spouse is supposed to be the representative of God in physical form in my life. Am I calling my spouse my God? No. But God, if God sent your spouse, this person is going to be a physical representation of God in your life. And you do not put the leadership of anyone else over your spouse. That's like you putting somebody over the leadership of God. You understand what I'm saying? In your life, everything's going to collapse because they can't carry the weight. Somebody said this a long time ago, that when you put something that's in the wrong position to the test of what's supposed to be there, it's going to go up in flames because it can't stand the heat of standing in that position. Anything that's out of its position in your life is going to go up in flames because it's not in the right standing, and it's taking the harmony of everything that surrounds it off kilter, off course. So what ends up happening is they end up in yet another scenario where somehow they end up on this parachute, and I think the woman comes to try to attack them one last time. They end up having to jump using the parachute, and when they jump using the parachute, they end up flying down over and into the pool. You still gonna end up having to take certain leaps with your spouse at the most inopportune times. But of course, if they trust you by this point, they're going to be willing to take those leaps even easier than they had in previous times and previous seasons, because they now trust you. You've solved your issues, you've healed your problems, and now you are able to deal with these situations and scenarios better because the communication between you and your spouse are that much better. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end, they end up in the pool. They get out of the pool. They end up meeting with Genevieve and the guy, because the guy's still holding Genevieve hostage wherever they had her. Yeah, he's still holding her hostage. And what ended up happening is the cabbie shoots this guy. God always have somebody in a scenario when you don't have all the answers. He'll have somebody that will be your deliverer, the divinely aligned assistant, the person that will come out of nowhere at the last minute. To some of y'all that are in situations right now, you still waiting for God to come and bring your assistance. because you've been waiting for your help, your rescue, your divinely aligned shift. And he's saying, I'm bringing it to you. It's going to be like this. He's going to have that divine aligned protective person that was always there the whole time, but you didn't see them as an asset. They're going to come in and take care of the situation. The cabbie turned around and shot the guy. They didn't even see the cabbie coming. God has his divinely aligned security people that when you and your spouse are at wit's end, at the end of your rope, and it looks like you may be losing, God will bring his divinely aligned assistant in to take down that situation. The guy ends up getting shot in the back. He takes a few steps and falls into the pool and dies. Genevieve ends up with Chris, and they end up doing their last little dance as they always do. And all is said and done. So with all that being said, this whole review of Rush Hour, all three films, was meant to do one thing for you guys. It was to help you understand the working relationship that you have to have with your spouse in whatever it is that you are operating in. So now that you understand that working relationship, keep these things in mind when you come into your God-ordained marriage, because you're going to have to work together. And you have to figure out and understand how to balance that out in work, in your public perception of that people will see you in, and even in your private life, how you deal with each other, and not mixing work and personal relationship. You understand what I'm saying? So I hope this blessed you, and I hope that you go back through this and gain some more understanding. I know I forget to say this in each one of my videos, but please like, comment, and subscribe if you like anything that I'm saying. Because I do enjoy seeing your comments, and I like hearing what it is that you have to say in relation to whatever it is that I'm posting. I hope, and by you sharing your feedback, it helps me understand that it is what it is that I am sharing with you guys, what it is that you need, if I'm explaining that right. So I'm hoping that I am blessing you with what I'm saying, because I see how many people are watching, and I don't know if you're not saying anything, whether I'm actually helping you or not. So do leave a comment and let me know how I've helped you in anything that I've said. I hope this blessed you. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings.